life is short, and it's not a dress rehearsal.
No.
We've got to live it and do the different things, and very often it's about stepping out of your comfort zone. We all build this kind of comfort zone around us, but I think it's a big lesson to learn that life becomes exciting, and the best moments, in fact, the most success you're likely to achieve is when you do step out of your comfort zone
Mm.
and try something new, try something different, take a risk. If you don't take risks, the greatest risk of all is that you'll never find success or fulfillment or happiness in life.
Okay, so hello and welcome back to Confidence Matters with Sue Reed. And today I have a lovely guest I've known for a little while. He's called Peter Mukherjee, and he is the author of the book A Few Wise Words. Now, A Few Wise Words is basically what it says. Actually, I've got the book here, I can show you. So this is it. Get into screen. A Few Wise Words. I'm not very good at this. So he's the author of A Few Wise Words, which basically the book is. It's kind of it's a success guide from Olympic champions, business people, A-list performers, people that have reached the top of their game, and it's kind of put together as their stories, so how they got to be where they are and how they feel about success, what got them to where they are, and just tips. And it's the kind of book you can dip into, so you don't have to read it from start to finish. You can just dip into it, which I've been doing since I got it, and it's brilliant. So welcome to the show, Peter. Lovely
Thank
to
you,
see
Sue.
you.
Really nice to be back with you again.
Yes, yeah. I think because we're in the same community on Substack, so this is how we know each other. We've never actually met in person yet, but that day will
Not
come.
yet. Yes.
So, your book then, A Few Wise Words, and I understand you're working on a sequel at the moment. Yeah, so it's
Yes. It's
going to be
been
another
quite a
part.
journey, really. The first one took around 5 years to put together. This one's taking a little bit longer for some reason, but it's just I'm busy with lots of other things as well. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been great meeting lots of very, very interesting people and talking to them in depth about their lives. And as you know, it's a fascinating thing when you talk to those who have really excelled in life and finding out about what they've done, and to learn from them what they believe they've done. And what I've sought to do with the book is to try to find these things out at a fundamental level, so that we can convey these nuggets of wisdom and the experiences that these people have had to those who aspire to do well in life, and so that they can sort of learn from it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because when we look at these people, I mean, to give people an idea of who we're talking about, you've got Sir Ben Ainsley, you've got Frank Arneson, Zach Brown, one of my favourites, Clive Woodward, which that was the first. I haven't read much of the book yet, but I've dipped into it. And the first chapter I went to, obviously, was Clive Woodward, which is the last one. Stephen Fry, who is a great hero of my husband's. Tanny Gray Thompson, another hero of mine. So some brilliant, brilliant people. And when you think about these people, and any celebrity or successful person who's got, really up to the high echelons, you kind of think, well, they are so much higher than me. They are at a level I could never achieve. And you almost put them on a pedestal. But they started out the same as anybody else. They might have had a talent, but I think from looking at your book, that the common thread seems to be to work hard. And if you've got any sort of skill, to really work on it and hone it, and follow your dreams. And if this is something you really want to do, then don't let anything stand in your way. And I think, one of the things we do as like the people down on the ground, if you like, starting out, we look at people like that and we think, well, I'll never be like that. I don't have their talent. I don't have their start in life. They're lucky. They're the lucky ones. But what we need to think about, I think, is that, and what your book highlights, I think, is that we can all get there. And particularly the young, I mean, I think you can do it at any age, but particularly the young, you can, if you have a dream, don't let anybody stop you. That's kind of what I'm what I'm getting from the book and what I always believe in anyway. What's your thoughts? Is that what you picked up?
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and it's fascinating again when you have the chance to meet so many different people and look for sort of commonalities between the things that they say. And interestingly, I think every single person that I've ever spoken to at that level have always talked about their passion for what they do. And I'm a great believer now in passion as being the kind of catalyst for success in life because when you do reveal your passion for something, for example, we all know that in order to find success in life, you have to work very, very hard with it. Well, passion gives you the fuel, it gives you the energy to work really hard. In fact, people who are passionate about what they do, they almost you can't stop them from working. They just love working. They love
Yeah.
what they're doing. They can work the most enormous amount of hours in a day because they just simply enjoy doing it. But I think what is also interesting, there's two things here. First of all, the role that luck comes into the whole thing as well, because the role it has to play. Because every single person I talk to also talk about how lucky they feel they are as well. And very often they refer to very specific times in their lives when a lucky break happened or something really important happened that gave them the chance to jump up to the next level. So there are ways in which you can make your own luck as well. I think that's what we've tried to focus on in the book, looking at all those fundamental ways in which you can increase the probability of good things happening to you. And one of those things is, exploring far and wide to find out what your talents really are. Because I'm a great believer in the idea that actually most of us don't necessarily exploit our best talents. I often say that I think there must be possibly tens of thousands of Usain Bolts in the world
Yeah.
who will probably run just as fast, if not faster, than Usain Bolt, but never discovered that they could run. And I think that's kind of a feature, and you see this very much with. It's almost a failing in many ways of a lot of the education systems, where they just simply channel young kids into very, very sort of narrow channels of thinking. And very often it's, people go off and pursue the first couple of things they think of might be suitable for them and they just go off in that direction. And then they're kind of in that channel, they can't easily sort of move out. And that's almost becomes a kind of a destiny for them. So I think, one of the things about making your own luck is exploring far and wide to find out what your talents are and exploring the different things that you could possibly do in life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's that intersection, isn't there, between like what you're good at and what you love to do. And if you can find the intersection between the
Yes,
two, then that can be your career for life, really. And
absolutely. Yeah.
what's the saying? Oh, I can't remember what I was going to say now. There was a saying that came into my head and it's just popped back out again. Oh, that's right. When you find something you love, you never have to work a day in your life. I think it's
Yes.
something along those lines. Yes, yes,
Yes. Well, this is the key, really, because talking again about passion and how important that is for us, that if we can reveal our passion for something, that can really help us to find success. To reveal your passion in the first place, you have to find something that you really love doing. And that's the key. And that's why you must keep searching. And I say this all the time, that if you're in a career and you're not quite, you don't really enjoy what you're doing, don't hang about. Just look at it as a stepping stone to the next where you can actually then hopefully find something that you can love doing. If you don't find it, then look again. It's a journey. I think we have to
yeah.
keep looking until we find that thing.
Yeah. I mean, when in my career, I was in retail banking, and, I wouldn't say I particularly enjoyed retail banking. I liked what I liked about my job, what I always liked about my job, from like working on the counter to giving financial advice and all the jobs in between that I did over 42 years. The one thing that I really loved was talking to people and helping people, which, as quite a shy, nervous person, that was a big thing for me. But it was something I really, really loved. And I found that, I could connect with people and they trusted me. And that's why I was successful. It was nothing to do with being able to sell. It was being able to connect with people. So when I retired and I thought, what am I going to do next? It had to be something where I could still connect with people and help people, which is what I do now with my confidence coaching. Because I picked confidence, obviously, because that was the thing that I struggled with when I was young. So I thought, well, okay, I can help people with their confidence, and I think that's it. I mean, in your day as well, you found a job and you stuck to it. That was just the way things were. These days, young people, they move around, they change countries, they work remotely. They've got so many opportunities open to them to be able to dig into whatever they want to do. They don't, though, all the time. Like you say, the education system, it's so Victorian and antiquated. It still leads them down this little narrow tunnel of, you can either be like, a lawyer, a doctor, or a scientist or something. There's nothing, or a teacher. There's nothing, there's no school of thought that says, right, why don't you play golf? Why don't you try out as I don't know, a bird watcher and make a career out of it?
It's true, and I love, by the way, what you're saying about confidence, and I think your Substack is brilliant, by the way. I think you're
Thank
teaching
you.
people a lot of really good things there, and I'm learning from what you
Oh, bless
say as
you.
well. It's brilliant. I think, going back to also what you're saying about, in the old days,
The
we
old
used to
days.
sort of
The
pick
good
a
old
career
days.
and it would often
Yeah.
be there for 40 years,
Yeah.
and just
Which I was.
sticking to one particular profession. And I think there's been a lot of changes, not least with pensions. You're no longer tied to a particular job because you don't want to lose your pension benefits. Certainly in the UK, and I think now you're right. People will have many different careers many different professions they might pursue during their careers. And I think it's a good thing because it gives you more opportunity then to move and to find things you love doing. And so I think in many ways that kind of agility that you kind of adapt and adopt, to your career is really important because you then aren't just stuck in the one channel. If you feel that there's an opportunity to pursue elsewhere, you can pursue it. And
Yeah.
I think that's what makes life so rich, is being able to try these different things and try different opportunities and things to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So with the book then, where did the original idea come from? Because you were a photographer. Well, you're still a
Yes.
photographer, I believe, a professional photographer. So where did you get the idea from? Did you suddenly wake up one morning and think, oh, I know what I'm going to do?
Well, it's a good question because there's quite a long sort of story behind it. Because there's two parts of my life that kind of I think are the seeds for wanting to create the book. The first was when I was very young. I had from a young age I was very interested in architecture. It's no coincidence now that I'm professionally photographing interiors and architecture of properties. And But from the age of 12, I was going into London and doing drawings of St Paul's Cathedral, and I was reading up on Lutyens and Wren and others. And by the time I was 15, I had a real passion for architecture, and I had my own ideas I started to develop as well. But my father, who had different ideas, he was very, very strict, and
Too.
he felt that I should study medicine. So he more or less said, no, you can't study this thing called architecture. You have to follow the family tradition and study medicine. We had a big argument over it, a big fight about it, and went on for a long time. And he ended up going to my school and telling my head teacher he's not doing architecture, and my subjects were changed to biology, physics and chemistry from design and technology and technical drawing and the like. So I was then suddenly, my direction had changed, not because it's something I wanted to do, but I was being forced to do it. And it's very much of a cultural thing, and I forgave my father years later. We became very, very good friends, so I'm so grateful for that. And funny enough, there's a similar story that Sir Clive Woodward
Yeah,
tells in
yeah,
the book as
yeah.
well. His
Because he wanted to be a
origins too.
footballer, didn't he?
That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
And he was going to become, probably a really good professional
Yeah.
footballer, but he's, was forced to drop it by his father. But so that was one of the things, and I always felt that any children of mine, I would never be prescriptive like that. If you have a passion for something, especially when you're young, it's so important and so valuable. You learn so much from that. The last thing you want is to be told you can't do that. So that's one of the drivers for me. That always rubbed me, and I always felt that's something which I wanted to, you know, also talk about these things. With young people, that's one of the things I would always sort of highlight. Follow your dreams, follow your passion, and don't let anyone tell you you can't do this. So that was one thing. And then later on, as I became a father, and I was a very proud father, and I was thinking a lot about my son. And we were on we used to always take very long summer holidays. It's something which I always wanted to do. So we go off maybe 6 weeks somewhere. And we were in the Seychelles, and we did 2 weeks in Mahi, 2 weeks in Proline, 2 weeks in La Digue. And on that last 2 weeks, I mean, La Digue is the most beautiful place. I hired a guide who then took me to different places, very remote places, which are hard to get to. And he took me to this one place, which was just magical. Beautiful beach, totally inspiring, beautiful setting. And so I went back there several mornings on the trot and just sat in this big rock and just overlooked this wonderful scene and started thinking about my son, and whilst I was doing some meditating and stuff as well. And a thought occurred to me, wouldn't it be great if I could get Sebastian to be in front of somebody really important like Sir Richard Branson? How amazing that would be to spend an hour with him and learn everything that he could from that time spent with him. Then I thought, well, why just a business person? What about a gold medal winning Olympic athlete? And as I was thinking about that, I thought, well, actually, at what age would it be appropriate for Sebastian to meet somebody like that? Because at 12, it could be very helpful for his schooling years, but it might be a bit early to understand some of the more fundamental concepts. But at 18 or 19, it might be a bit too late. He could have learned a lot earlier. As I was sort of having these sort of thoughts sort of running through my mind, it occurred to me, well, actually, this is something which I could do and put this together in a book. If I could meet with these amazing people and talk to them about their lives, and then sort of compile a series of stories, and that was literally sitting on this rock in this
Oh,
paradisical setting was the moment that the idea actually came to mind. And I had a very good network anyway. Through it, I actually had a lunch with a business friend of mine, and he was asking me. This was a few years later after that moment, and he said, "Well, what else? You're doing well with your photography. What else have you got on your plate? What else are you thinking about?" And I mentioned the book idea, and he said, "Peter, you've got to do this." And he introduced me to somebody who then introduced me on to Lord Mervyn Davies, who became a partner of my
yeah,
old
yeah.
book project. And we worked it together, and the rest is just what's happened. It's all unfolded and working now on volume 2.
Brilliant, brilliant. And how old is Sebastian now?
He's 20. He's 20 and
Right.
studying
And so does he know?
biomedical
Has he
science.
read the book, and does he know it was meant for him in the
Oh
first
yes, yes,
place?
yes.
Yeah.
He's read it a few times. He's well into it. Yeah.
Right. Brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, actually, going back to Clive Woodward for a minute, it occurred to me reading the chapter about the football and his father saying, "No, that's not I want you to go to university. You've got to have a proper job, if you like." And then he send him off to boarding school because they think that will instill some, like make him a bit more serious and make him a better student. Where he hates that. He runs away 2 or 3 times. And then he ends up playing rugby in the school. And what must his dad have thought? He must have thought, oh, for Christ's sake.
Well, I think at that stage, because they didn't play football at the boarding school that he was
No.
at, and so I think everyone realised then when he started excelling at rugby at a young age, that actually it was something that we need to let him do. And I think he just went on from there. And I think
Yeah.
I remember talking to him about this because he was really affected by his time at school. It was a really serious time for him. His passion to play football sort of taken away from him.
Yeah.
But as he said, in order to survive, you have to just toughen up and just be more resilient. And he kind of developed an attitude of just wanting to win and just go forward with things. And rugby became his focus, and he just went on to become a great player. Played for England, and of
Yeah.
course became the rugby coach, and very very famously successful at doing so.
Yeah. Yeah, and a successful businessman before and after as well, isn't it?
As well,
Yeah,
yes.
because that's why I liked him, because he kind of I think I watched a documentary. It was something that I watched that he was talking about, and I think it was just after winning the Rugby World Cup, and he was saying about putting a business mind into a coaching position. You're like not looking at it like a business, but having that, I guess, very organized attitude that, I can do this. I'm gonna get the team together, working with people, working with a team, I guess, as well.
Yes.
It's just a really, really good way of thinking. So my father, when my career choice, I said to my father, because I was clueless when I was younger, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I just said to him, I would quite like to be a buyer for a fashion store. And I thought, that sounds quite cool. I can go around the world and buy up clothes and bring them back. And he said, no, that's not a job. That's not a job for a woman. Jetting around the world. No, 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 no. You can either be a secretary or work in a bank. Those are your two job options. So career options. So I thought, okay, well, I'll try being a secretary. So I went to secretarial college for 2 weeks or 2 months. I can't remember if it was 2 weeks or 2 months, but typing, no problem at all. Because in those days you had the typewriter and you were just typing. Shorthand, I was hopeless at shorthand. Of course, these days you would never need it, but hopeless at shorthand. Nobody could read it. I couldn't even read it. So I gave up on that. And my dad said, okay, well, you can work in a bank then. So he thought that was a good job for a woman. So I did, but I excelled in my career as well. But I think what my dad taught me, although I almost hated him at the time because he was pushing me and making me feel stupid, but he just wanted me to be the best I possibly could. And my dad's attitude was you had to win at everything. But I think that did go into me. And although I fought against it, and because I kept telling myself, I'm just not clever. I'm just not clever. I can't do anything. I'm not clever. But I tried harder because of that. And I think that was him motivating me. It was the way he was that motivated me to always want to be the best. And
Yes.
and yes, that created some perfectionism. It created some imposter syndrome. It created procrastination. But I was still successful. And I still think, even now, if I put my mind to do something, I will do it. I would do it no matter what. I'll find a
Yeah,
way.
I think our parents always have our best interests at heart. They may
Yeah.
not necessarily have the best vision for us, and I think certainly, with the kind of the generation gap as well, very often, our parents may be, a few steps behind what we're
Yeah.
doing. But they still want us to do well and will offer us advice. And sometimes advice can be very constructive, very helpful. And sometimes it can get in the way if it's the wrong advice. But it's, again, always well meaning, but not always right, I think. And again, it's all in the book. There's lots of people there who started off with a particular pathway, which might have been set by the parents, it might have been set by the schooling. But it's when they realise, well, actually, I want to do something differently. And I want to pursue my own path. I believe I can do this. I believe I can do that. And they then take responsibility for their own lives. And so often that's been the changing moment that's allowed them to go off on a path that's helped them to excel in life. It's very, very sort of common, I think, with successful people.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the key, taking responsibility for your life. I mean, when you're young, you don't have a lot of choice, and you don't have a lot of knowledge of the world, if you like, or experience. When you become an adult, at whatever age you want to put that on that, like 21, 18, whatever, but when you become an adult, you are then able to make your own choices. You can take responsibility for your life. So even if you ended up going down a road you didn't want to go down because of your parents thinking this was the best route for you, you can change. You can
Yes.
make your own decisions. And I'm sure when you're an adult, if you said to your parents, look, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to do this, I'm sure, they may tut and think that's not a good idea, but they're not going to stop you like they would have when you were younger.
Yes, I think that's true. And I think one thing's really important is always to keep an open mind and always be searching, exploring. I remember Stephen Fry talking about the most powerful thing we have as a human being is our curiosity. People who are naturally curious, they tend to succeed far more than those who aren't. It's a fact. And I think curiosity is really important. And I think that way you open doors and you can see opportunities available to you. But another thing, in fact, Dame Catherine Granger, in fact, Baroness Catherine Granger, as she is now, also in the book, and she said to me, again, it's all in her chapter, how important it is to just say yes to every opportunity that's presented to you. And she recalled when she was at university, she started Glasgow University. Well, she was in Freshers Week, and she was looking at all these different sort of things, activities that she could do alongside the studies. But somebody tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Have you ever thought about rowing?" And she'd never even thought about rowing. And the idea of rowing, on the Clyde, in Scotland, in the middle of winter, didn't particularly appeal to her. But she recalled something that one of her mentors or teachers in her earlier years had said to her: whatever you do, say yes to every opportunity that's presented to you. Don't just dismiss it. Explore it, because you never know, that could be something that would lead on to something very special. And so in that moment, recalling that piece of advice, rather than thinking, I don't do this, I'll look at it later, she just said, okay, yeah, I'll have a look at that. And she went to the rowing club, and she was studying law. She actually got a PhD in law ultimately. But she went to the rowing club, liked the people there, had a go at rowing, liked it, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
5 Olympic medals later in 5 consecutive Olympic Games, and one of the most successful female athletes in the UK of all time. And she attributes that decision to go down that particular path to that piece of advice and saying yes to that opportunity, as opposed to just dismissing it and then never knowing, possibly for the rest of her life, that opportunity could have been there for her to explore.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think opportunities come along for us to take advantage of. And I think we walk past so many opportunities every day. And, that just could be a chance meeting with somebody in a coffee
Yes.
shop, and you have a conversation and it changes your life, either because of connecting with them or something they say. There are all of these opportunities coming along all of the time, every day. But particularly these days in a modern world where, we tend to be glued to our phone all the time and, we're not looking up and looking around and we miss so
Yes.
much. I've actually just finished writing this week's post on that very topic about missing opportunities, because we tend to start to drift, and particularly if now you're in a career, may not be exactly what you want to do, but it's paying the bills, you've got a family to support, so you work all day, you go home, maybe you put the TV on, relax, go to bed, next morning start all over again, and you're in this kind of loop where you're just drifting. You get to work, you can't remember how you got there, you travel the same route every day, have the same thing for lunch every day, have coffee at the same time every day, and then go home, and it all repeats all over again. And we never really stop and look up and look around and think, what else is there? What else is there? What else could I be doing right now, rather than sitting here watching Netflix, or rather than eating this for lunch? What else could I be eating? Where maybe I could go and sit in the park in the sun instead of going back to my desk and carry on working. All these little tiny threads that we just walk past, that if we pulled on one of them just to see where it might lead, our whole life could change. And we don't do that. We don't do that.
I think it's so important to do all sorts of different things in your life. And I think I've always had that philosophy that I want to do lots of different things. I've tried lots of things, tried and failed at many things, and it's just like, it's important to keep exploring and keep just stretching yourself and yes, looking for different things to do. I think travel is a good thing, because that really opens up your mind to a lot of things, and just it being in different places is like different events that suddenly become a different chapter in your life, and you remember those things. You remember those things better than the boring moments when you're at work, perhaps, and the mundane things that you might be doing. So I think, yeah, sort of variety, as they say, is the spice of life. And I think you have to really, you know, life is short and it's not a dress rehearsal. We've got to live it and do the different things. And very often it's about stepping out of your comfort zone, isn't it? Because we all build this kind of comfort zone around us. But I think it's a big lesson to learn that, life becomes exciting. And the best moments, in fact, the most success you're likely to achieve is when you do step out of your comfort zone and try something new, try something different, take a risk. If you don't take risks, the greatest risk of all is that you'll never find success or fulfillment or happiness in life. Rather than taking that risk and doing something different, even if you fall flat, if you're doing something you love doing, that's brilliant in itself. And you then move on to the next thing. But it's change and just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, just keep going. I think that's the secret. My favorite author is Brendan Sanderson at the moment, and he writes like fantasy novels. And I'm just about to finish a book called Oathbringer, and there was a line in it I read last night that I really liked. It said something: the most important step a man can take is not the first step; it's the next step and the one after that. In other words, it's a step outside your comfort zone, but keep going. Like, don't run out and then run back in again. Keep going. So if you do something and it doesn't work out, don't think, oh, well, I'll give up then. Try something else or take the next step or try it a different way, but keep going, keep
Yes.
moving down that path. And we don't have to take giant leaps. I think as humans, we should always aim high because this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to grow and evolve. So always aim high, but take small steps to get there. So don't
Yeah.
take a giant leap. It's like when you stand at the bottom of a mountain, you can't leap from the bottom to the top, but you can make little climbs and keep moving upwards, and then eventually you get to the top. I think,
Yes, and everyone who's conquered Everest, they're taking it one step at a time, aren't they?
yeah,
So it's.
yeah,
I think
always,
I
yeah,
think it's an interesting point because another thing is being risk averse, and I think that's something which holds a lot of people back. And it's we learn so much from failure, from failing, and I think you've mentioned this before, and Stephen Fry mentions this also in the book that it goes back to a really our early sort of few weeks in life where we're learning to walk. You
yeah,
know, I don't know of anybody who's still sitting on their bum at the age of 30 because they've never learned to walk. Everyone's done,
yeah. I
and you
failed.
do
I
fine.
didn't. I can't walk. I failed.
That's right. But you walk because you stand up and you fall over, and sometimes you hurt yourself when you're very, very young and you cry, and but you keep going, you keep trying again and again, and you're building in a sort of a resilience at a very early age and learning from failure at a very early age. And then as we become adults, we forget these things. And it's very tempting to become risk averse. But I think if you can just always look at failure, not as something which is a huge negative you want to avoid all the time, but as something that you will always learn from. And if you're taking risks, if you're trying, you're going to fail and fail and fail again. It's going to happen a lot, but you learn each time from it, and you build your resilience. And also, once you get into that mindset, it becomes a bit of fun because oh no, not again. Let's get up again and get back on that horse and go off again.
Yeah.
It's just part of learning, really.
Yeah, yeah, and like you say, that's exactly what children do. They just keep getting back up. Nothing stops them. They just keep getting back up. It's the same with when start to feed themselves. They get food everywhere, but they
Yes.
don't think, "Oh my God, I'm terrible. This is terrible. Look at me, I'm covered in this." They just think it's funny and just carry on until they get the hang of it. And why don't we take that attitude? It's because we're so frightened of people looking at us and seeing us as failures and rejecting us, and actually they see us as human. They think, well, you're just like me. I messed that up as well. I've failed
Yes.
at things as well, rather than coming along and saying, well, I've never failed at anything, I'm absolutely perfect, but then I haven't actually done anything.
Yeah, and I think we very often sort of mollycoddle our kids and prevent them from
Yes.
doing things which might sort of hurt them. where they might hurt themselves. And but I think it's important to let kids go and let them find out. Sometimes it can be a bit risky, and it's very unnerving when you see your kid climbing a tree. But
Yeah.
the last thing you should do is say, "Don't do that. You might fall off. You might hurt yourself," because that's not what they need to learn at that stage. They need to learn to climb that tree, to be able to conquer that fear of climbing it, to be able to
Yeah.
prove to themselves they can do something like climbing that tree. If they fall off and hurt themselves, that's a lesson in itself. Hopefully they don't fall too hard. But if you go through life just trying to avoid any pain, you'll just end up living a boring life, frankly. And I think but with our kids, we need to let them go, let them take those chances and take
Yeah.
those risks. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, my brother, my older brother, he fell out of a tree. I can't remember what age he was, but he fell out of a tree and broke his arm. And then
Okay.
he fell out again and broke his collarbone. And then he got a black eye from being hit in a branch when it snapped back. But he just kept climbing trees. You know, nothing
Yeah.
ever stopped him. But then he played rugby as well, not professionally, but he loved his rugby. Unfortunately, my brother died at 34, which is such a shame.
Oh, sure.
But no, it's a long, long time ago now. But yeah, so he loved his rugby, but he played rugby, and they were it was quite violent. The teams that he
Okay.
mainly he played against. We lived in Gloucester. And Gloucester is quite a rugby town. We've got a good rugby team there still. But some of the local teams that he used to play against were quite ruthless, and he'd come home with stud marks up his legs, and he'd get stamped in his face and come back black and blue, literally. But he just thought it was great fun. But I think that was because he'd fallen so many times and hurt himself so many times and got back up again that he was just used to it.
Yeah, but if rugby was invented as a game today and it hadn't been played before for schools and they introduced it to schools, it would get banned straight
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
Everyone would say, "No, it's ridiculous. They're going to hurt themselves." How easy it is to injure yourself. And I think, but because it's done something which was done years ago, and it's almost like a rite of passage for many sort of young
yeah,
boys and girls nowadays, of course.
yeah,
It was just acceptable then. It's acceptable now because of the legacy, but I think
yeah.
the world's become a lot more kind of risk averse and more protective. I mean, I used to go out on my bike at the age of 5 and 6 and just go down to the park and to the rough lots we call them, which is like
Me
old
too. Yeah,
woodland.
yeah,
So you used to have all sorts of encounters and things with people and situations. Whereas today, a lot of parents are saying, "Oh no, don't go there, don't do this, and keep off the road." I think you just need to let kids go, let them explore, and let them find
yeah,
out for
and
themselves.
yeah, and just hope for the best. I mean, as long as you teach children to be careful, but you don't teach them to be
Yes,
frightened. That's the thing.
yes,
I used to cycle to my aunt's. I was only about 10 or 11, so the same age as
mm,
my grandson now is 11. I can't imagine him getting on a bike and cycling. I used to cycle, I think it was probably about 5 miles from Gloucester to Churchdown, where my aunt lived, and I used to cycle on the main road on the what's now the Golden Valley bypass. So it was a really busy road. Of course, in those days it wasn't so busy because not there wasn't so many cars on the road, but it's still a busy road. And I used to be cycling along to my aunt's house and back, and my parents never ever said to me, "Don't do that, it's too dangerous, we'll give you a lift." They were like, "No, get on, get out, get on your bike."
yeah,
Yeah, it's just really
interesting.
strange. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't think the world is any more dangerous now than it was then. It's probably a lot safer now. But like you
In many
say, we're
ways.
just we're just too risk averse.
Mm, yeah,
And because of that,
yeah.
kids tend to stay in more, and now they're just, glued to their phones and not getting out and getting fresh air like they should be.
Yes, that's true. I mean, when I was, 11, 12, I was up washing cars and doing paper rounds and playing football in the park. I think you were right what you said earlier about, smart devices now being a big distraction and TV and all these different things. Even today, I hardly watch any television. I watch the news, the odd movie, the odd documentary,
Yeah.
occasional series if it's something particularly good. But I think, one can waste so much time just glued to the box. You can waste so much time just, glued to your phone. And I think we need to put these things into perspective, because when you do add it up, all that time we're spending on those things, and think, well, what else could I do with that time? You start getting imaginative about the things you could do with that time and how much time you do have. I think that's something we all need to do, and I think it's important to not to
That's
be distracted.
absolutely true. Yeah, because so many people, you say, well, what would you really love to do? What did you do as a child that you'd love to do now? Well, I had this fantastic hobby and I really love doing it, but I don't have time anymore. But okay, so how do you spend your evenings? Well, I sit and watch the telly and da da da. I spend weekends like, sitting down, not doing anything. Well, why don't you spend an hour a night on that hobby that you really want to go back to? And they think, oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
Interesting. I think on Substack, a lot of people are in that sort of mindset where they feel, well, actually, I don't want to watch TV. I prefer to be writing a note, or I prefer
Yeah,
to develop my Substack. And I see this with a lot of creators, because of course we're part of, as you mentioned earlier, we're of a
yeah,
community now, and you see this a lot where individuals are obviously loving what they're doing with their Substack, and developing it and communicating with others, and all the collaborations and everything else, as opposed to the easy thing, which is just put your feet up and watch some TV. And I think it's a much more creative and worthwhile activity.
yeah, yeah. So you've got your Substack, A Few Wise Words. Good title. Comes from your book. So what's your purpose behind your Substack? What are you using it for?
Well, it's a creative thing, and it's just really an extension of the book, which is a mission for me, to be able to meet all these people and share their wisdom, share the most valuable advice with others who aspire to do well on their own career journeys. And so Substack is an extension of that. I just want to share more of the wisdom and the knowledge that I'm gaining from all these amazing people, in combination with obviously my own sort of views
Yeah,
and things. So it's really an opportunity to express all of that, and to take people a little bit on the journey with me as well, and sharing bits from the book on my Substack. Trouble is time at the moment to
yeah,
do all
yeah,
these things. I'm
yeah,
intensely busy with a lot of things at the moment, including the photography still. So I love doing it, and although I'm picking the eyes of the things I love to do, but it involves a lot of travel and a lot of big projects sometimes. But yeah, my Substack is kind of an opportunity for me to kind of switch off from all those other activities that I do enjoy into something else that I really enjoy. And I love it. I just love just sharing the things, using it as a platform. I'm not sort of obviously I'm looking to introduce people to the book as well
yeah,
through my Substack, but I'm not using it so much for doing sort of courses and selling products from my Substack, and it's more just the creative side and just sharing the experiences that I'm having. And yeah, it's a lovely journey for
yeah,
me.
yeah. And I mean, that could always come later if you wanted it to, couldn't it? Like,
Yes.
do a course of what you've learned from meeting all these different people.
Yes, that's an idea. I have been thinking about, and
Yeah.
I've been pushed gently by people to do that. I think when I have a little more time, I may invest in that as well.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? When you've got so many interests, if you try to do them all at once, and you're not going to give your whole focus to any particular one of them, you're
Yes.
just going to spread yourself too thinly. And for me, I find I get overwhelmed when I do that, so I try to just do one thing at a time. So circling back to the book, then, who would you say was the most let's say fascinating? Who fascinated you the most?
It's a difficult question to answer that, because they all fascinated
Mm,
me. I'm often asked who's my favourite, sort of person that
yeah,
I
I wasn't going to
introduce.
say that. I was going to find a different word.
It's difficult to say, because um, we've been very careful in targeting people and asking people to participate who we believe are the right people. They're always going to be people who give back a lot, generally in their lives. and who are really mindful to help other people. And so I think, it's all the people that I have engaged have been very, very interesting. But they're all different. And this is the fascinating thing for me because they all come from different walks of life. It could be a gold medal winning Olympic athlete, it could be a billionaire entrepreneur or an A-list, performing actor, say. But they're all different backgrounds. And what's fascinating is how, first of all their journeys are all unique and different. We all have different lives. But how they will often have different views on the same subject, like goals. Some may be totally against goals and say, my only goal is to just be the best that I can be on whatever's in front of me right now. And that's a goal. Others will say, and especially the athletes, oh no, you need to have very set goals and break them down, as you were saying earlier, into smaller goals, smaller steps. And so you can have almost polar sort of visions about the same subject. And that's a fascinating thing. So it's very difficult because I look at everyone as being really, really different and all having fantastic experiences to share. And I think we can learn so much from all these sort of people. Because there's so much wisdom that can be passed down by people who are incredibly successful and accomplished in their fields that we can learn from. And that, of course, is the mission for the book. So long answer, but it's hard to sort of answer.
Yeah, no, I imagined you'd probably say something like that. So what about then, what would you say is the most useful piece of advice you've picked up?
There are many, and again, it's hard to choose, but I think there are lots of kind of quotes that are lingering in my mind from things that people have said, and I think Ursula Burns, who was a very, very successful lady who grew up from being an intern at Xerox to becoming chief executive and chair of Xerox in her later years. And Xerox, of course, is an enormous corporation. And she was the first black woman to lead a Fortune 500 company. Very, very, and she was advisor to presidents and everything else. Very successful woman. And she said that, if you, it goes back to passion. If you really love this thing you're doing, you put all your time and effort into it and work really hard at it, something that you're really passionate about, if you do those things, then you will find success, you will find fulfillment, and you will find happiness in life. It's almost an inevitability. If you work hard at something you're passionate about, you almost cannot fail. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Because, again, it sounds like, well, anybody could then do it and be passionate, become successful. That doesn't happen in the real world. Well, not everybody does find their passion for something. And this, I think, is really powerful because, those who do stand the best possible chance of finding success in life. Those who don't, well, they become just having average lives. And that's why it's so important to find something that you really, really love doing. And then Sir Ben Ainslie, he also talks about this. He says that, it's really important that you find something that you're passionate about because you're going to have to spend a lot of your life working hard, really hard at doing something. And if you don't have a passion for it, you're not going to put in the hours you need to make that a success. So, I mean, those are two immediate sort of things that kind of come to mind. But also, another thought from Rabbi Sachs, who was an amazing man. Sadly, he's no longer around anymore. But I remember him saying that, talking about courage, talking about confidence and courage, which is your subject. If you don't have the courage to fail, you don't have the courage to succeed, full stop. For me, that's very, very powerful because you have to recognize that life is hard. If you want to excel in your career, you're going to have a lot of challenges along the way. It's going to be tough. But it's those who just fight hard, work hard, are resilient and keep pushing hard are the ones who break through. And I think that's really important as well. Those are just a few.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. I think just, never give up. If you really want to do something, then don't let anything stand in your way. But know that things will stand in your way. A path is never going to be straight. There's always going to be bumps in the road, curves in the road, things that you've got to get over. But you have to be prepared to tackle them all. I read something the other day that was saying about fear. And he was saying that there is some, I can't remember, might be the Toltec tradition, but they look at fear as like almost going into battle. It's your opponent. Fear is, because fear will get in your way. Whatever you want to do, fear will try and stop you. So that is your opponent. So the only person you're in competition with
Mm.
is fear, your own fear, because that's your opponent. You don't have to beat anybody else, but you have to beat fear. And I thought that's a really good way of looking at it. And so you go into battle, and maybe the first time you won't beat fear, maybe fear will hold you back, but you just keep coming at it, and you keep saying, no, I'm going to get past you. I guess it's almost like, maybe playing hockey or something, or football, and you're getting past the opponent on the other side to like the person marking you. I used to play netball, so I use a marker, and get round them, and get your goal. That's the way to do it.
Yes.
But yeah, fear, you look at fear as going into battle.
Yes, it's almost like a severe part of your comfort zone, isn't it? It's
Mm,
something you have to cross. You've got to conquer your fears. You've got to step out, and you've got to step out and confront those things that you feel uncomfortable about, even if it's
yeah,
not you're not fearful of them, because that's like almost like a precursory step towards fear, if you like. Feeling uncomfortable first, and it's just you've got to push yourself beyond those points to be able to progress, really, to
yeah,
grow. You know,
yeah,
growth comes from conquering fears, conquering your
definitely.
failures.
Yeah,
I think it's really, really important.
yeah. But you mustn't, I think, don't think you can ever eliminate fear altogether, because you actually want fear. You want that fear because you don't want to take undue risks. So there's risks
Yes,
and then there's risks. And so you don't want to do anything that's going to really damage you.
yes,
Like you don't want to put all your money on something and you might lose it all. So you can take a
yes.
risk, but calculate it. Um, but you need really fear to. So I like to look at fear not so much as an opponent, but more as a bodyguard. So your bodyguard will try and stop you from doing something that it thinks is going to harm you, because this is our survival instinct. Excuse me. So you move fear to one side and you have it next to you, not in front of you. And that way you can move forward and fear will protect you. But you're saying to fear, look, I'm in charge. I'm driving this car. You're sitting in the passenger seat. You're not going to drive me anymore. And I think that, to me, that's maybe a softer, more feminine way of looking at it than thinking of fear as your opponent.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it as well. I think that's really nice. Again, if you want to have an ordinary life, then avoid all the things that could, where you might fail and that would stimulate fear. But if you want to have an exciting life and do different things and to excel in life, then you have to be able to, face those feelings of discomfort by stepping out of your comfort zone. But then, when the challenges do arise, you have to be able to deal with your fears and conquer your fears and conquer self-doubt as well, which is another major thing.
Yes.
It's something which we have to learn that is something we can, once we learn how to manage self-doubt and use it, we can actually exploit it to help us to drive us forward as well. It's an important part of being human, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so to finish off, I mean, your next book, I know you're not allowed to talk about anybody that might be in the book,
Yep.
but it's going to be along the same sort of lines, is it? But just different
Yes, I
people.
mean,
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be just the one book to begin with, but with the diversity of experiences and stories and people that are in the first volume, and apart from those who are in the book, I've met many others who, because we had then sort of sort out which ones are, going to fit, the demographics, and we need to have half women, half men, and certain number of sports people, certain number of entrepreneurs, and so on. And you can never plan those things who you're going to see always beforehand. So there's quite a few actually queued up to go into the next book as well from last time. It's yeah, it's going to be along the same lines. There may even be a third book because I think there's it warrants. I think
I was thinking
that
it's never
number.
going to end, is it? Because if it takes you 5 years to write the book, then
Well, I
in
know.
5 years' time, there's going to be a whole stack of new people coming up.
I know it's interesting. It's interesting, but it's I think probably the third one will take. Well, this second one should take less time now. Although it's taken a while to get going, but it's just that I've been very busy with so many other
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But I'm trying to sort of get that done and completed over the next year or so if I can. But yes, it'll be along the same lines with more amazing people who've gone on amazing journeys and who've got so much to share with us that we can learn from.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
Audible version has just come out of the first book as
Oh,
well. We've
yes,
just
yes.
published that, so that's available. So it's now available as a hardback, a paperback, Kindle, and now on Audible as well.
Brilliant. Okay. Yep. So the book is called A Few Wise Words. I will put that in the notes, in the comments. And where can people buy it? Everywhere?
Yes, it's available on Amazon. I'm just doing a landing page at the moment, which will be on my Substack soon, which will help direct people towards where you can actually acquire the book as well and give a bit more information. But yes, Amazon is the main source, but it's also available through major booksellers. You may have to order it because obviously booksellers have limits to what they can have on their shelves, but you can buy it at Waterstones and books all over the world actually.
Brilliant. Okay. And people can find you. The best place to find you is on Substack.
Yes, that's fine. Yes.
Brilliant.
And yes, there's more information about me and about the book there as well, but also the things that I like to write about, which are really model on the things that I've learned from all these amazing people, which are on the Substack as well.
Yeah, yeah. I know you put stuff on about your son and lessons from the book, and also some fantastic photography on there as well. So, yeah, I definitely recommend people having a look.
Thank you. Thanks.
So it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. It's really good
And you
conversation,
too. Thank
and
you.
my voice has actually held out, which is good.
Good.
And
Fantastic.
yeah, lovely seeing you.
And you too. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Right, I shall stop there.